football fans, Gooners, welcome to another season of the Uncensored Arsenal podcast. I am your host, Shotta, and as always, my good friend, Blackburn George, and another good friend, Seebs.
Yo.
And we are we're hoping for Her Royal Highness Byso to join us, and she knows she's gonna make a point. I screwed up the time trying to get all us from 3 different time zones together. But Byso, if you're backstage, we are hoping to have you. Guys, how you doing? How was the summer?
Boring. England, we had it in June.
George, let me hear George first.
Women's football. Fucking hell. What's all that about? It's like watching football in slow motion.
Yeah, there's nothing going on.
Can't be doing with it. Everything. It's like I'm becoming my mum, moaning about everything. Everything's terrible.
Yeah. I know that.
How about you, Seebs?
Yeah, to be honest, I've been watching some of the women's football, but I watch Arsenal ladies anyway, so I enjoy it, but they just need to invent goalkeepers and then the games will be a lot better, you know. or get the
I got to
make the goals a little bit smaller.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I have to admit it hasn't excited me at all. I have to confess. But it was a summer of big spending by Arsenal. £175 million net spend. Declan Rice is in the fold. Timber is in the fold. Wow, what a way. I never dreamed, guys. I've been supporting the club since 2006 or 7. How many years is that? I don't know. Can't put my finger on it. 17 years. I never dreamt of such spending. Blackburn George.
Well, you can't complain about it. Look now. We're complaining for 30 years that we haven't been spending enough, and now we are. People are complaining about that.
Yes.
Let's just enjoy it while it lasts, because the reality is, without that sort of spending, you can't compete. It remains to be seen whether we do compete or not. Personally, I think we spent well, but I also fear that the loss of Xhaka is greater than the improvements we've made. But we'll see.
What about you, Seebs? Did you ever dream of such big spending?
Never. But, I remember years ago getting outpriced when Tony Cottee went to Everton. With like George says, we waited years and years. It's nice to see the money rolling. Although I've always been a massive fan of the academies. So when Martinelli and he's doing well and Eddie and Saka are scoring, then that's fantastic. I'd rather do that because you associate with your own players more than you do with players that you obviously if you spend 100 million on a player, well he's not going to go close to your heart for a couple of years. I associate with academy players better anyway. But I think going back to George's point about Xhaka, I think the players we've brought in, it's not one player replacing him; it's a couple that will Rice and Havertz between them.
Yeah,
and it's just going to take time. He was an absolutely massive influence on the club. Probably the biggest influence on the club by any player. So it's going to take time. But when those players get bedded in, then hopefully we'll get, other influences that can influence the team. And we'll miss him less and less as time goes on.
Well, you know how it is. I've been around the club. All these great players are no longer in people's minds. In fact, people say strange things about even Henry. But can you imagine us outspending Manchester United? 145 million pounds net spend versus our 170 million. Granted, guys, the spending isn't over. I think it goes all the way down to the beginning of September. George?
I think our spending is over.
Uh-huh.
And I think we're spending enough. I always believe Arsene Wenger when he says something. And if he says you don't want to be bringing more than 3 or 4 players in one window, I'll accept that. And we've got our 3 or 4 actually. But we'll see how they bed in and who goes out yet. I'm thinking some's got to go out, but the squad looks strong at the moment. But I'm not sure how strong it'll look when we sell whoever it is we might be selling.
Well, talking about going out, there's somebody who just came in and with a brand new look. Welcome, Byso. I explained to the audience that I screwed up on the time, but I blame it on the internet. Welcome. We just spoke about. We just started off.
Okay, good.
Speaking about the big spenders, and I was saying we were all I remarked I could never imagine in my 16 or 17 years of supporting this club that I would see us out spending net £175 million, outspending the likes of Manchester United. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, I'm just getting straight into it, right? You know what? I think it has to be done. If we have to compete at the very top level, we have to spend that money. And I also don't think that the transfer window is still open, and I think that there will be some people who will be sent out to other clubs, either on loan or transfer out. So maybe that net spend will go down a little bit, but big spending, you have to spend big to stay at the top. So I'm glad that Arsenal is finally in the game of spending big. It's been a long time coming.
Well, you George are at the same position, but guys, and before we go into the seeing the results of that spending partially on the pitch yesterday, who are you most impressed with, or who you think is the most significant signing? I'm going to go around the room, the virtual room, starting with George. Who is the most important signing, and who are you most impressed with in preseason?
Timber.
Me too. But go ahead.
Because I think you can cover a number of positions, but I'm not a great believer in somebody who can play in 2 or 3 different positions. I want somebody who's excellent in one position, and that's where they start. But he seems to be excellent in more than one position, and we'll see how he goes. Like I say, I still worry about Xhaka going. I think Rice is an upgrade on Partey, but only if Partey doesn't fucking play. I mean, that yesterday, having him at left back was a fucking shambles. What? I just don't get it.
Right back?
Right
back, sorry. Yeah, I just don't get it. Play Ben White there, Play KT if you've not got Shevchenko, and let Timber play with Saliba if Gabriel isn't fit. I just don't get it. He looks so slow and clumsy. He seems to be all right, Partey, if people are running at him and he can just break up play. But if he has to chase anybody and close down himself, he's not for me. Certainly not at right back. So the upgrade, I tweeted yesterday, I hoped Eddie would play at centre forward, Havertz would play in the position we've bought him to play, which is the Xhaka position, and Declan Rice would replace Partey. That's what I hoped, and that's more or less what I got. Loads of people were saying that I was stupid. That would never happen. It's not going to happen that way, but it did. But he still managed to shoehorn Partey into the side somehow. But
well.
I'm thinking that if somebody bids for him, I think we'll accept it.
Yes, there was no there was speculation at the beginning of the window that he was going anyway. What do you think, Seebs?
Yeah, well, definitely agree with George on Timber. He was the player who seems to have settled in to his position and the way we play first. So he's, brilliant. Ironically, it was him who made the mistake for the header going over his head and Johnson nearly getting through and scoring early on in the first half.
Yes.
And then obviously him getting injured. Like you say, the player who settled in the most, he gets injured. Typical. As far as Partey was concerned, he was playing the Zinchenko role, so he wasn't playing as a orthodox right back. He was supposed to go into midfield, and the difference was when Zinchenko plays it, or if you watch City and somebody goes into midfield, the extra man, they will quicken the play. The difference is with Partey, when he was doing it, he was drifting into midfield. We were going to a back three, and he was holding up play. He was doing what he does when he's a holding player, which is to calm everything down. So he's supposed to make the tackle, calm it down, 5-yard pass, away we go. But when you're playing that right back into midfield position, you pick up the ball and you recycle it quickly and you get us moving. But he didn't. He stood there, put his foot on the ball, everything calmed down, and they just went back into Forest, went back 11 men behind the ball. The 3-men press that they had, because they had their 3-men press close together, which was shutting off our midfield, shutting off Rice, Havertz, Odegaard, and he was stopping that because we were getting through that 3-man press, and then he was putting his foot on the ball and stopping it. And Forest were having a cup, getting back in position, having a cup of tea, and we were struggling then. We had to then go down the wings, and they were doubling up on both Martinelli and Saka. So we struggled for the first 20 minutes. The only reason we got 2 goals was because we've got brilliant players and we had a little bit of luck. But, you know, on a different day we could have really struggled. But yeah, definitely Timber for me.
Let's come back to the game in a minute. What is the most important signing for you, Byso? We spent £105 million on Declan Rice. I mean, in terms of cost, he's supposedly the most important signing.
Yeah, for me, yeah.
Is he?
Oh, I've always been a Declan Rice fan. Like
Byso loves Declan. Byso loves Declan.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I love Declan Rice. Oh my goodness. So like I'm so excited that he's finally at Arsenal, and I get to cheer for him every week. You know, fine, he's not really impressed as much as, you know, players like Timber have so far. But I believe that once Declan settles into that midfield, he's going to be a really, really important player for us. He is. He's got the Arsenal, like the tools in his Arsenal, and you know, all in, and he's still got a little ways to go to get to that peak power. And honestly, we're going to have fun with Declan, and I'm just excited about having him in the squad. So yeah, for me, Declan.
You know, I refuse to be a pundit these days. If you notice, I've been tweeting less and less, and I've been agreeing with you, by the way, Byso, that these online experts have really gotten to me because they're everything they're doing, they're wrong. But let's get to the match itself.
Yeah.
And it was a game of 2 halves, if you ask me. I'm going to just present the statistics, which you know, but for a team that had 78% possession, we scored 2 goals in the first half, and second half we were, I don't know, in my opinion, we're not in the races. I mean, this is the PL stats, you can all see it. What happened yesterday, George? I mean, are we back to the same old Arsenal of last year? lots of foreplay, but no, we have women here.
We get the message.
Yeah. Hey, George, what went on?
Well, I thought we played well in the first half, but without being very penetrating. I do think we were a bit fortunate with the goals. I mean, the first goal, Martinelli's bit of skill, where he backheeled it to Eddie, was fantastic. Trouble is, he didn't backheel it to Eddie. He backheeled it, expecting to turn onto it himself. He miscontrolled it, and it just happened to land at Eddie's feet. And then Eddie got a deflection. That was going straight at Turner until it clipped somebody's calf and just went over his leg. So we were a bit lucky with that. And the second goal was just a bit of individual brilliance. That's not team play. So we were dominating. I mean, 90% possession at one point. You can't say that we weren't dominating.
Yes.
The game. But it was, as Arsenal said, sterile possession. We'll have to improve on that. I think we will improve on that. Because I thought Havertz was moving into good space and we just weren't using him enough. We weren't getting the ball to him. He was making some good positional plays and we didn't seem to get it. But I'm hoping that that'll come. But it was all a bit slow and lumbering for me. Yes, even though we had a lot of possession, it was the build-up was slow. Like I said, Thomas Partey. I mean, he was coming in from his right back position and basically taking he wasn't an extra player. He was becoming the defensive midfield player rather than an extra attacking threat like Zinchenko is. So that'll have to change as well. But it was the first game. You can't expect miracles. And we'll see how we go. At least we won. But we won 2-1 against one of the teams that will be struggling to stay in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not get carried away. But 3 points is good. But you always say that, don't you? At what point in the season can we say that we want to see some performances? Because when you scrape a win like this, everybody always says, oh, it's only the result that matters. There never seems to be a point in the season where we will say, let's see some good performances as well. They just seem like a Brucey bonus if they come along. So, I mean, frighteningly, I was more impressed with bloody Newcastle than I was with us. And,
yes, we can talk about that if we get a chance. But I just wanted to mention that before Seebs comes in, you mentioned Turner, and I didn't realize when the game was going on that we sold Turner. And the whole Reina buy. So Seebs, you want to say something? Comment on the Reina, because Reina didn't play for Brentford today. He's definitely gone. And it ties into something, as I said, and that is experts. The experts are always saying that, oh, Ramsdale is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but this is not a vote of confidence in Ramsdale. It seems to me. Seebs, your chance to comment on all of that.
Yeah, firstly, with the thing that George was saying about results, and I agree with him in the middle of the season. There is certain times when 3 points is necessary. The one thing about first game of the season is totally unpredictable. You get results all, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So actually, the fact that we got 3 points first game of the season, yeah, I'll accept it. First game of the season, and even when we had 90% possession, our play wasn't fantastic. There was players who were quiet, so that's that point. Secondly, on the Raya issue, we didn't register him in time, so the deal's done. We've bought him. Personal terms are agreed. He's had a medical. Everything was done. We just didn't register him in time. Forest obviously were a little further ahead, and they registered Turner
yes,
in time and everything. So yeah, so Raya will play will be available next weekend, which is just as well because particularly like Hein, from what I've seen, I think we've got better keepers than him. and I don't necessarily think he should be third choice. But going back to the Ramsdale-Raya issue, Arteta says he wants a squad and he wants competition for places. Yeah, totally understand that. If one keeper gets injured, it's always good to have another top class keeper. The only experience really I've seen it before, the biggest time it happened before was England with Shilton and Clements, and it just didn't work. It was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. I'm
old enough to remember that Seebs. That's a long time ago.
Didn't it work at Chelsea as well when Peter Cech came in? They had that Italian Claude, whatever, I can't remember his name now.
Yeah, they've done it. Chelsea have done it a few times. Yeah. Obviously, recently with Kepa.
And the African dude.
Yeah, and it, like I say, it never really works. I would imagine that one of these keepers is going to leave at the end of the season. Because
it was the same thing with Ramsdale and Leno. I mean, it was the two couldn't work.
Yeah, I mean that was a bit different because Leno was a Dracula keeper. He didn't like crosses, did he? So he was going to go. He was always going to go. He should have gone when Martinez when he got injured.
Yes.
Leno was always going to be replaced because he's not particularly good at distribution and he's terrible at crosses. He always stayed on his line. He gave the centre backs absolutely no confidence. They didn't know when he was coming, when he wasn't. So he was always going to be replaced. So that's slightly different. Ramsdale we've bought. He's done well. He's a young keeper that's always going to get better. So we've now got two very, very good keepers who are going to get better, and one of them will not be happy. So, I mean, the only thing is when we sell one of them, are we going to get more money? And then we've got to replace them again. So, I mean, Ed was from Positively Arsenal was saying about how many keepers we've bought since Mikel's been there, because we've still got to get rid of Runarsson this year.
Yeah,
or this window. Yeah, I mean, we've got to get. I think we've got to get rid of 9 players now to get down to the 25. Either sell or loan 9 players, and we're running out of time. Otherwise, a player's going to be sitting there and he's not going to be registered in some of the competitions. But yeah, so it's going to be difficult. The end of the season, one of those goalkeepers will not be happy and will go, in my opinion.
Byso, we were talking about the game and we got sidetracked by the Ramsdale Reina, I think is his name. Raya. Pepe Reina is on my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, the game itself, and you may want to comment on the keeper issue because we just glossed over it. But the game itself started off very, well first half, 2 nice goals, get bogged down the second half. And we're gonna go to your player ratings because you said that on a tweet. But you want to make some comments as to what went from your observation, because you were obviously watching the game.
Yeah, I think the match was symptomatic of the fact that we had a lineup out there that we had not used even in preseason, and it showed that these are players that were unfamiliar with the position they found themselves in a competitive at a competitive pace, and they had not worked together as a group for a long time playing in those positions. So I think it's fair to say that we need to tinker a little bit less. For the first time in, I believe, Gabriel's career, or maybe for the last 2 years, he did not start a Premier League match. And
was there anything wrong with him, or was it just a tactical?
So from what I understand, it was a tactical. Well, if people are saying it's a tactical decision by the coach, and he came on in the second half, so it's not like he was injured or anything. So, for me, it's just hard to understand why throughout preseason, we had this centre back pairing of, Gabriel and Saliba, and then first match of the season, Gabriel is on the bench, and White, who has not played that position, I don't remember him playing that position in the preseason, and most of last season he spent at right back. Suddenly he's paired up with Saliba, who is now shifted over to the left. Yes, Saliba plays or does play on the left, but he hasn't done that in quite some time as well. And so it's like, you had all these pieces that were just moved around, and they had not played in that position or, together as well for an extended period of time. So I think that was the result that we saw in the match. And I don't believe that it's an indication of how we're going to play going into this season. I just think it was I think it's just a one-time thing. We'll definitely look much better as we go on and people get to play in their best positions.
For me,
sorry, George, but go ahead, George. Go ahead. I'm just you go ahead.
For me, the only way it makes sense is that if he didn't want to drop Partey because he doesn't want to hit his sale value, making it look like we don't want him, so he found a place in the team. Otherwise, I just don't understand it.
Wenger used to do that, George. Wenger used to do that. Players he was going to sell.
I know.
But we haven't done that, and Mikel hasn't done that. So I'll be surprised.
I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm saying
that
makes sense to me. Why the fuck would you play in there? Jesus.
Well, I want to make
the last 2 games of last season. Yeah, shit. He played there and it was crap.
Seebs, you wanna enter that? Say something.
I don't think it was any other reason. I don't think he wanted to horn him into the side or anything like that. I think it was purely he's trying to find a player to play the Zinchenko role, and he used Partey, but and it didn't work. It didn't work, and he wanted, because of that, he wanted a 3. But it looks of it at the moment, the player most suited to do that position is Timber.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he's injured now.
Yeah.
But he did it a couple of times in pre-season.
Yes.
But start at right back and move into midfield. And I think this was specifically designed, and the reason why Gabriel didn't start was because he wanted 3 mobile players, and because he knew Forest would sit back and have the 3 pressing at the start, he wanted to have more players up the field. So he didn't need a back 4. He didn't need overlapping wingers. He wanted us to get the ball early into Havertz and Odegaard, get it then wide, so the space would be wide, and then we would attack from there, and we would have more players higher up the pitch. Basically, it was a back 3. He does a lot of stuff copying from Pep, and Pep early in the season he tries things out with his new players and all stuff like that, and that's why City always get better as the season goes on. They quite often they'll have a few really ropey games early doors, and I think that's what we done. He was trying stuff out, and he might never ever try it again because Partey was not. He was quicker in the second half, but it didn't work. It didn't work, and I think he's going to have to rethink that.
You know who looked ropey, especially the second half, was Ben White. They brought on a speedy left winger, and that's how he made Ben White fit. And I was like, why are we exposing Ben White as a central defender? I don't know if any of you want to comment on that, but yeah, I think what Seebs is saying. You all said it before. Go ahead.
Sorry, Sean. The first half,
yes,
the same fella, he ghosted past Partey as if Partey was standing there several times. So they had to change something there. But there we go. When Timber's on the pitch, Tommy's always done fantastically. So
yes.
Why not have Tommy there, like really. But yeah, it's going to be difficult now with him injured. Like,
Okay. Let's just talk. Just go to the player ratings that and I'm going to use our resident expert. Man, I see so many. You're just as good as any of them, Byso. They get on my nerves, really. Am I add to the stream? Yeah. So, guys, George, just comment on this. I know I shared this with you before. If you want me to, I can get rid of the banner. But what do you think of Byso's player ratings, George? Ramsdale, go ahead.
You know, George doesn't like player ratings.
I know, but he has to.
Well, we didn't see enough of Timber to give him a rating, really. Ben White, yeah, I don't think he was particularly good. Saliba was all right. Odegaard, well, there was none of them outstanding. I don't think.
Yeah,
Rice,
it wasn't
I
outstanding.
don't think Declan Rice would have got an 8 if he didn't.
Now I understand why, George. Now I understand why.
If it wasn't for him fluttering his eyelashes at Byso, he wouldn't have got an 8. And Martinelli and Saka were the standout players, really.
Yes, they were.
Again. So, I mean, we were just too good for Nottingham Forest. It was simple as that, you know.
Yeah.
So, I think they're all fair. I think what those ratings tell me is that everybody was okay.
Yeah.
That's about it. Nobody stood out and nobody was particularly bad. So, fair enough.
Fair comment, Seebs.
I agree with that. We said that last season that when we was looking at player ratings, that it's really that they're just
subjective.
Yeah,
and they're very well. So we said if you started off with 7 and then went up or down from there, I think that I thought Ben White done well first half. He was exposed second half. So yeah, you players that were quiet like Odegaard, I thought he was very quiet. He was looking for a few Hollywood balls when simple passes would have been better. So I'd give him a 6. Rice, obviously, that's a sexy 8 rather than a. And I was saying that second half, he was making more and more interceptions, and you can see what he's going to do. He's going to break up play when the other team are counter-attacking. So he did make a couple of really, really important stops. So I think he'd be well worth a 7. Eddie, I thought, as soon as he went off, we were struggling. He was very important to the balance of the side. So his movement is excellent. You play a ball anywhere around that box, and he makes the move. He gets there. So he might not pull out any wondrous goals like Saka, but he's really important to the balance of the side. So yeah, I think you go in 6s and 7s, and obviously Saka an 8 because of that fantastic goal.
Oh, fantastic goal!
Yes, it's Robin-esque.
Yeah. Now Martinelli done well, but he will not look up.
Yes.
He crosses in hope rather than. I mean, unless Jesus is there, sometimes he just won't pass at all. Tries to do a bit too much sometimes. But when he does cross, he won't get his head up. If he'd done that, he would be another level. But he done well. He was running all game long. When he come off, he looked like he was going to just fall. Like he couldn't have given no more. So yeah, I thought that they all done well for a first game, first competitive game, absolutely competitive game. All done well. Like I say, Odegaard was quiet, and as well, I wouldn't have given him a 7. I'd have given him a 6, just because with 5 minutes to go, he had a chance to play the ball down the corner and he shot,
Yes.
And for a captain to do that was idiotic. And I would have slapped him if I was one of the coaches, to be honest. You don't need your captain to do that.
Yes.
With 5 minutes to go, the other team.
Yes.
The other
Yes.
team.
Yes. I
When
saw
you're
that.
playing
I remember that.
Unless the back of the net ripples.
Yeah, when you're playing that sort of side, you can't give them free kicks anywhere on the pitch because they're going to launch it. And you can't waste time, not waste time rather, or give them the ball back by taking shots and all stuff like that. You've got to pay. We were talking about it last season, game management. And we're another season on, we're grown up another year, and we should be better at game management. And we weren't again yesterday. So, yeah, he's got to learn that. He's a young captain, but he has to learn that. And that's probably something there, whereas we missed Xhaka yesterday, that he would have calmed them down and said, play it in the corner, play it amongst ourselves, a little bit of possession, calm it down and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Look, I've got to go now, people. But can I just say, I hope we get Seebs on more often because
I know
it makes me look happy.
All right, George, we're going to have a last.
I'm normally just a miserable bastard, but Seebs comes on and he makes me look like.
Seebs, we want you on more often.
Yeah, and
I'm like Eeyore. I've got the old black cloud on me. I'm going to tell you.
So
okay, George. Sorry we have to lose you, but Byso will have to take up the slack. Byso?
Yeah. Okay, so
any second
what's the
thoughts?
question again?
No, any second thoughts about your player rating?
Okay. You know what? Yeah, I had to give my boy Declan Rice some points. I know he didn't. It wasn't like flashy and all that, but like Seebs said, he did get better in the second half, and I think you can see that it's because he's used to playing in a team that is under the cosh more than they are in control. So he needs to learn how to play in a team that is a lot more dominant than what he's been, so the less dominant he became in that game, the better he appeared, right? Because that's his strength. So now he needs to develop the other side of his game, which is the dominant side of that game. And it's going to come. Probably I should have rated him less. And you know what? All of Seebs' feedback on the ratings, I think I accept them for sure. Yeah. And the subs didn't have any impact. So
no, not really.
I think we're just going to leave those sub ratings as they are. But yeah, Seebs I think is spot on with his changes to the player ratings.
If we hoping to have you on more frequently this season, Byso, so you're gonna have to do the player ratings because I have been taking SofaScore on one what do they call themselves again? Whatever.
Oh, I know the one you're thinking about, but I also can't remember the name right now.
But this is all. It's all subjective, and they call themselves experts.
No, so the all the stats accounts, right? The way they do their ratings is usually geared towards the contribution to XG and to G. Mm-hmm. And so, if for example you have like a defensive midfielder who is probably contributing more towards like the clean sheets aspect of it than maybe progressive passing, they don't score as high as. The ratings don't meet what you actually watched, on the screen, so
who scored? Who scored? Who
scored? So like for example, you have a player who was like literally quiet all game and then perhaps comes up with an assist or a goal, that rating goes high despite the fact that he was not maybe particularly having a great game. So it's subjective, but at the end of the day, you can't really get a perfect system, right? So that's why football is up for discussion. That's what makes it interesting. That's why we get to talk about the game, even when the game is not on, and it keeps us talking until the next game comes. So that's the beauty of football. I love it.
And that's why but after a while, amateurs thinking that they know more than the professionals really gets to me. But, that's, I guess, because I sort of worked in a professional capacity. And I hear so much ignorance about my own profession. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. You haven't even spent a day inside this field. But anyway, That's me. Seebs, how far can we go? And George is not here, but I saw Newcastle yesterday, and they were rampant. I mean, how far can we go? In other words, with the last part I did is Mikel was, and I quoted Mikel, we can get better next year. How much better? How closer can we get to City, which is obviously in the leader's catbird seat right now?
Yeah, we are going to get better this year as a squad. We are better. The trouble is that the other teams around us, Chelsea and Liverpool, will be much better than they were last year, and obviously United, Newcastle, Villa will probably do well this year, even though they got tanked.
Yes.
So
the guy Musa Dembele impressed me. I did after by. I mean, you run out of gas by the 80th minute, but he impressed me.
Yeah. There's the trouble is that, look, yes, we did really well last year, but you have to be honest and say there was a couple of teams that weren't up to their usual standard. They were changing managers. There was all sorts of problems.
Yes.
This year, everybody seems to have got their shit together earlier, so it's going to be a more difficult league to win. However, I do think that the squad is better, but we do have to improve on game management, substitutions, and stuff like just bits and pieces. But yeah, we're a better we are a better squad than we was last year. Yeah, without a doubt. As far as Newcastle are concerned, you don't win the league on the first day.
Yes.
You know, they're impressive, but they were at home. They, had one of those days where, you look good, everything goes. What are they like in February? If they lose five games on the trot in February, then it's no good, is it? And we prove that. When you go through your bad patch, you need to grind out wins, and we didn't, and that's why we lost the league last year. That and the fact that the team that we were playing up against was financially doped. Which going back to where we were in at the start when we were saying about spending, remember that's core spending, and even though we spend more than Manchester City in the last few windows, their wages are a lot higher than ours.
They're off the roof, like through the roof.
They can spend whatever they like on behind the scenes coaches, masseurs, whatever they want. They can throw money at every bit of within the foundation of the club. So the core spend is something, but it's not the whole picture. You have to look at the whole picture as with anything. But yeah, I think we're going to do well this year. And even if we come third or fourth, that doesn't mean we've done worse than last year.
Yeah, last year.
If we come third this year, I will think that will be possibly as good. It depends on how the league pans out. And as far as George saying I'm miserable, listen, I'm still hitting the ceiling every time we score a goal. You know what I mean? I'm still kissing anybody walking past my house if we score a goal or anything like that.
Byso?
Yeah, I do think we're going to do well this year.
I'm running up against my time limit. I don't want to go on too long because I know we lose people. They are. The analytics prove it. Anyway, you know that. So what your hopes? I said big dreams, big spending, big dreams. After yesterday, and a little look at some of our potential rivals. Your thoughts about how far we can go?
So, I'm of the opinion that I don't think we've improved the squad from last year. And one of the reasons why I hold that opinion is because the lifeblood of a team is the midfield. Mm-hmm. And we have Xhaka, who's gone out the door, and Declan Rice, who's replaced him. We haven't increased that, level. So assuming we had maybe like someone like Mohamed Elneny move out and get someone even better than him come in, I could say, yes, we've improved that midfield. Yeah. But as of now, we've maintained par with last season, at best. And I believe that we need to get a better solution for our midfield. And why do I believe that? We're playing the Champions League this year. It's no joke. We cannot afford to rest our best players like we did last year for the Europa League, right? We have to play our best players in the Champions League when it starts. Now,
Because tell people because if you get trashed in those matches, go ahead.
Yeah, because the level of competition is different.
Okay.
In the Europa League, you can use your second string players in the group stages and all of that, but in the Champions League, you can't afford to. And so you need that. We're more dependent on players like El Neni and Vieira and this guy from Chelsea. Ugh.
Havertz.
Jorginho.
Oh, Jorginho.
Yeah, Jorginho, right?
Yeah.
In the league. And we didn't do that last season. And so it's either those guys come into the season and perform at an even higher level than they did last season. Otherwise we're going to have a bit of a issue with that midfield, right? Everyone needs to bring their A game this season. Otherwise, that midfield, we saw how we collapsed last year, right? Are we going to expect someone like Partey to be fit, to play 2 times a week? He barely can manage once a week, matches. So I believe that we need to bring in another excellent body, someone who is maybe not as good as the Rices of this world and as our starting guys, but a bit better than Vieira has shown so far. Then that way I can say yes, that midfield has improved. I hope we do something in January if we're not going to bring in any additional person this summer. But I think it's going to be quite challenging for us, moving around in and around that midfield. Going up front, where are the goals going to come from? Is it going to come from Havertz? We had Odegaard give us at least 15 league goals last season, right?
Yeah, he did score more than 10.
We're expecting same from him. The other guys, with their contribution suddenly double, I'm not sure. Gabriel Jesus is Jesus Gabriel. He's not that prolific, so unless something special happens and it becomes a 30 goal a season striker, where are we going to get those goals from? What's our alternative way of playing if the plan A doesn't work? I'm not really seeing those thought processes in some of the purchases that we've made. We have definitely improved, how we're going to play out from the back. Timber is definitely a very good addition to the squad. Those guys are no slouch. Even the guys we had last season, all of our back four, we're fine with it. We're good. For me, the concern I have is if there's absences in the midfield, how are we going to maintain our level to ensure that we're competitive in an even more competitive league than it was last season, right? As Seebs has said. So it's going to be quite challenging. The boys have to step up. The boys have to up their level in order for us to maintain, the excellent season that we had last time around. Top 5 goes to the Champions League next year, right? So it's not all bad news. Whatever happens.
Well, it's interesting what you said that you contrasted Seebs. Seebs Byso is saying she doesn't think the squad itself is better. You're saying, but you're arguing that it is.
Midfield is sexier.
Yeah, from Byso's point of view, but football-wise, she was she wasn't as enthusiastic. I gotta look at his shorts a little bit more. Guys, let's leave it at that. We'll track this during the season. Whether we are better. Who do we have next coming up? I don't know.
Palace.
Okay, that's
Monday night.
Palace should be an easy game for us, honestly. Zaha is no longer there. Literally, Eze is the only one that is from their attacking arm that remains at the club. They have, a high turnover as well. So, and we have people who've been playing together for at least, a full season. I believe we're in a better shape it's going to be 3 points for sure. I don't think Crystal Palace will give us any issues.
Interesting. Big spending, big dreams. How high? How much should we aspire? Let's see how that works out, guys. Thank you, Seebs. Thank you, Byso. It was very interesting. For me, some things I had not given thought to. But it's gonna be an interesting season. Thanks again.
Well, it is going to be an interesting season, and looking forward to supporting the Arsenal, and hopefully we can, we got on the right foot, right? We have a trophy already, and hope to add some more.
Yeah.
It is a trophy, guys.
If we just win the Champions League, I'll be happy with that.
Oh yeah, just a little business of winning that Champions League,
Talking about big dreams. All right, guys. Thank you. Until we get together again, I hope to see you two more often with me and George. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.